welcome back from the break. So, welcome back again to Payari Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam ki pyari baatein from the platform of Geo Islam. So, before we were, talking about the same hadith which are narrated by Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, the servant of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he narrated it. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that none of you believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself, your Muslim brother what you love for yourself. It narrated by Bukhari and Muslim. And again, I mentioned another hadith which is very interesting, and another very good hadith is to the same point, to the same topic, which is narrated by Amr al-As radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, this hadith is like that whoever wants to be delivered from the hellfire, who wants to be saved from the hellfire, who wants to be protected from the hellfire and enter Jannah, let him do good deeds. And again, I mentioned before too about the maktubat and everything else. And again, also to treat his brother just like he wants himself to be treated. It is narrated in Muslim. Now, if you see, and again, I mentioned before that whenever somebody comes to help, we should, be regardless of caste, creed, country or everything, even religion at one point. We're brothers in humanity too. We should just bend our back and do it. Like it is said in Surah Al-Hujurat. We have created you for men and women. إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ وَأُنْثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. And we have created you into caste and creed, into tribes. لِتَعَارَفُوا. Only for, ta'araf. Only for introduction. That you are from this tribe, you are from this caste. This is only for introduction. And again, on the day of judgment, that person who will enter Jannah will not be just because of, his lineage. And again, it is said in another hadith in Imam Nawawi's collection, that is also interestingly mentioned. That is another hadith which is which packs a punch. That hadith also tells in the end that when you will not be helped on the day of judgment because of your lineage, your progeny will not help you. Like if you're not, if you're the descendant of some very big person, that is not going to help you. That you're some very rich person, that is not going to help you on the day of judgment. This is only made, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. Indeed, that person who is akram, who is good, who is kind, who has many good deeds, amma man saqulat mawazinuhu fahuwa fi 'ishatin radiyah, whether it is from a bad lineage or a good lineage. This again says, indeed the one who is better, indeed the one who is akram, indeed the one who has good deeds, he will be better to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him Jannah. Again, in other words, Inna Allah alimul khabir. Indeed Allah is the all-knowing, and the person who is aware, he is the all-awareing. He is aware of everything. And again, we see that this hadith has a very big impact. In Islam, of course, it emphasizes on their Muslim brothers, or even somebody, yes, or brother in humanity, even we can bend our back and do it. Again, it shows. And then we also have to have generosity. And we should not be regardless of the wealth in this dunya. Like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was very generous. And again, it's an example that one person, he was a non-Muslim actually, came to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he asked me, give me, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him 100 camels immediately. Second time again, third time again. So this means we have seen how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not regardless of this dunya. And again, it said in Surah Hadid, it is that this dunya, this is لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. This world is, لعب, is play, ولهو, and amusement, وتفاخر بينكم, and pride between you. It is verse number 20, chapter number 57, verse number 20. وتكاثر بينكم, and rivalry in money between you. And then it is again said in Surah Al-Insan, those people who disbelieve, they leave behind يوما ثقيلا. It is said that those people who do not believe in the hereafter, they are, indulged in this world. Those people who are indulged in this world, then they are actually leaving a day that is having a very heavy weight, yawman thaqila. And then it said in Surah Al-Qiyamah also that those people again, they leave the world of the hereafter, and they also come with pride. And then it's again said in a woe, it's more like a woe, awla laka faula. Then behind it's also said in many other surahs, countless other surahs, it has been emphasized. And again, say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's reward, it is better bin Allah wa min tijara. Surah Jumu'ah, chapter number 62, verse number 11, which is also, the last verse of Surah Jumu'ah. And in Surah Takasur, it's, it is actually wholly based on rivalry in worldly increase. In fact, the name Takasur derives from that. Al-Hakumut Takasur. We people, you people indulge in rivalry. You people indulge in rivalry of wealth. Hatta zurtumul maqabir, until you reach the grave, then indeed you will know. Kalla sawfa ta'lamun. So Quran has emphasized that this world is just nothing but amusement and everything, and indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a lot in store. And again, it's been said in countless surahs. Surah At-Taghabun, verse number 15, innama amwalukum wa awladukum fitna wallahu indahu. And it said that again, your children and your your wealth is a fitna. This is just a trial. And indeed, ajrun azim. Wallahu indahu ajrun azim. That indeed with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala there is a big reward. So we can see that, that is what people are. They are, very greedy about the wealth, and that's why. But we should always know whenever there's a brother in need, we should always help him in that aspect. That tells us how, the life of somebody else, how somebody else is very valued in Islam. Islam has valued this a lot. Speaking of that, now let's come to the next hadith, which is narrated by Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Let me recite this hadith. عن ابن مسعود رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يحل دم امرئ مسلم إلا بإحدى ثلاث الصيب الزاني والنفس بالنفس والطارق لدينه المفارق للجماعة. It is narrated by Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, now Ibn Mas'ud is another very famous narrator of the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have, some who have been very famous, like most of them. Abu Hurairah, Abdurrahman ibn Sakhar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Yes, he's very famous. Then again, Abu Sa'id Sarari al-Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Then it is also Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and countless others. And anyway, we have, first of all, let me translate this hadith for broad understanding of us, for the ilm of us to do amal on this, and to also, understand this more properly and with more knowledge. Now, it is narrated by Ibn Mas'ud, who is, his total name is Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. It can also be said Ibn Mas'ud, like Ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar. Now, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu narrates that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the blood of somebody, which is the life of somebody, cannot be spilled except in three categories. As-sayyibu zani, somebody who is an adulterer, and nafsu bin nafs, that is and life for a life. There's a saying that an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. It's not a really good saying actually. Anyway, but a life for a life. That is a life for a life. That is murder, mostly referring to murder. وَالطَّارِقُ لِدِينِهِ الْمُفَارِقُ لِلْجَمَاعَةِ, and the tariq to his deen, al-mufariqu lil-jama'ah. Now, this is narrated again by Bukhari and Muslim. Rawahu al-Bukhari wa Muslim. If you see, Islam emphasizes on somebody's life. And we have seen before in that hadith that how, Islam emphasizes on somebody, his brother, and how, it's again said, this is, before that, this was again nasiha to the common folk of the Muslims. This is again, there was nasiha to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ad-deenu nasiha, kulna liman, qala lillahi, ولكتابه ولرسوله ولأئمة المسلمين وعامتهم, and وعامتهم, nasiha to the common folk. That's where it comes inside too. Now, before in modern day, prehistoric Arabia, we can say at that time, the Jahiliyyah, which is the period before the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a lot of cruelty going on. That is that people used to be killed a lot. I mean, they were killed very much, and that was sometimes for no reason after all, for very small crimes. And again, they were also killed for a tribe superiority. I mean, it went so horrendous business, that it actually went on that people were being killed for show off and pride. Now, how is that? I mean, to show that this tribe is superior upon other, this tribe is superior on other. And I mean, at that time, the most superior tribe was Banu Tamim. And it was, said at that time that Banu Tamim can eat all the Arabs, because, it was very famous in poetry and everything. So, Arabs, they were having a big competition of which tribe is above on the other. And the most horrid business is that killing was also involved in there. And it had a big part of it also. Now, and they also used to Biyayizam bin Kutilat. It's a very famous what's in Surah Takwir. It will be said on the Day of Judgment, that girl which was buried alive. It has been a lot of civilizations that women were considered very bad. But then, over here, another thing was, the Arabs, they were, very dainty about this matter. That meant that, you always had a son. You want to have a son. That's why. Son was, for lineage, for progeny. You remember how Henry VIII cut off the head of Anne Boleyn. It's just the same thing. So, now, listen. The Arabs, they were, thinking that the boy, it was representing a sign of progeny, a sign of lineage, a sign of pride. But when a daughter came out, it's a very bad news, because they thought this was a sign of shameness and nobody would continue their lineage. So that's why the horrid business went on, that they would bury them alive, right into the ground, bury them alive. That is a very horrid business. And then it will be also asked in the Day of Judgment, for which sin this baby girl was killed, why she was buried inside, why she was buried, what sin she did, what major sin she did, which made her to be buried alive. Now, Islam, when it came, it emphasized on not to take somebody's life, the value of somebody's life. Somebody who is innocent should not be killed. This is again the value of somebody's human life. That's why to respect everybody and not to kill anybody, except these three exceptions which are given over here, like life for a life, a murder. But this has been with the implementing of Islamic principles. And again, I told you that how Islam emphasizes on somebody's life. It said in Surah Al-Ma'idah, this is emphasized the human life of somebody, that how a life is so important. A life is more important than a diamond. How it is mean, this proverb, that it is said that if you kill somebody, now look at this. It is like that you have killed the whole humanity. It is an example like you just killed the whole humanity. And you save a life. It is like you saved the whole humanity. So this is, emphasizing how this is, emphasizing that human life is such important. Anyway, you may ask why I'm skating around on two wheels. Who knows the way out of a roses? Anyway, but I'm running out of time. So let's get an overview, a recap of what is happening. I'm short of time anyway. So in the first half, we were talking about the hadith which was narrated by Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. How somebody has to be cared just like somebody is caring himself. Just like, what he desired for himself, he should also desire that for somebody else. How to, care for somebody else. And also, regardless of his caste, creed, religion, anything, that is that you just bend your back and do and help him. Help him in that situation, help him in that circumstance. And just again, I narrated another hadith form, and it's again just told in so many countless surahs. And again, it is again said in another hadith, which also emphasized that if you want to go in Jannah, be delivered from the hellfire, then you have to do good deeds and also treat others in the way you want to be treated. So this emphasizes in how everybody else, we should also help them if they are in any circumstance, regardless of their caste, creed, or anything. Now, and in the second half, we are talking about the sanctity of a Muslim's life and how Islam emphasizes on the somebody's life. And then it said in another hadith, in every Muslim, something is haram. Ala kulli Muslim haram, damuhu wa maluhu. But if you see, the first thing which comes in order is damuhu, his life. So we should not violate this thing. It's again emphasized in the Quran many times. So, as it is, now we have come to the end of this program, and inshallah, I'm gonna meet you in the other programs which will come in the future. So, and we have done a lot of hadith, and inshallah we will go on and cover many other hadiths, and I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the power to understand this and do amal on this, to act on this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps us straight on the straight path, the Sirati Mustaqim, and He has also brought us on the Minas Zulumati ila Nur, and may He grant us Jannah. May He bless us with Jannat al-Firdaus. ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.